Welcome to Resilience and Resolve with Lance Drury.
Welcome back to Resilience and Resolve. We're taking a closer look at IRS tax liens. I'm Evan Mack with Lance Drury, and we're covering what liens actually do, how they affect your property, and what your options are once it is filed. Lance Drury, sir, welcome back. Welcome back.
How you doing, Evan? I'm glad to be here.
Oh, great to hear it. Great to hear it. Let's tell these people all this good information and get into it right now. What exactly is a tax lien? Because I don't think a lot of people know what that is. And can you differentiate that between a levy?
Of course, yeah. People confuse a lien with a levy all the time. A levy is a actual seizure of property. It's like wiping out your bank account, garnishing your wages, taking your home. A lien is not a seizure. A lien is filed in the recorder's office in the county in which you live most of the time. Sometimes they file it in the wrong county and then it doesn't attach because it's only good. It's only valid legally for any property that's contained in the county in which it's filed. And it's similar to your mortgage at your home. You know, your bank, your mortgage lender is going to file a lien so that if the property is ever sold, that lien has to be satisfied at the time of the sale as your property. Now, the good thing is there's a couple things. One is the IRS lien is supposed to be released 6 to 9 months before the collection statute expires. So the lien at the federal level does not last forever. So if there's no lien on the property, people want to sell their home, I tell them to do it now before we get the IRS involved, because once we get an agreement, more than likely there's going to be a lien filed. And so the other thing is, and this is really upsetting to me, but you know, those liens are supposed to be self-releasing, but these title companies are requiring a formal notice of release and lien, so people have to hire me for that, because a lot of times the IRS is not automatically filing that release. And here's the disturbing part with the title companies is these title companies are requiring people to satisfy liens that don't even attach to the property. For example, the home is titled in the name of the person personally with their social security number. And these title companies are so scared of the IRS that if you got a business lien out there with an EIN number, they're requiring you to satisfy that lien. And that is not right. But they are so scared of the IRS, you know, somebody needs to take them to court and sue them over filing or requiring their clients to satisfy a lien that doesn't even attach to the property. But that's happening all the time. It's one of the pitfalls of dealing with title companies in this day and age. But again, the lien does not last forever, and it is not an actual seizure of property. But if you sell that home, that lien has to be satisfied at the time of sale.
So how does a lien impact someone's ability to refinance or even sell their property?
Oh, well, it can considerably affect their ability to refinance, because when they see that, they're not going to be able to get a loan. Now, that's a good thing in this sense. If you have a lot of equity in your home, the IRS is going to require you to get a loan denial letter to see if you can pay it off in full. Now, 99% of my clients are not going to get that because they've got tax problems. Right. And the bank doesn't want to take second to the IRS because the IRS has already perfected their lien by filing with the Recorder of Deeds. So if the bank now gives you a loan, they have to wait for the IRS lien to be satisfied first. And most banks don't want to do that. So it's good from the sense that you can then get a deal for less than the full amount with the IRS when you get that loan denial letter to pay back the IRS in full. But, you know, again, if you're going to, if you don't have the ability to wait out when the lien goes away, that lien has to be satisfied then at the time of sale, and you may end up paying the IRS back the full amount of the liability that you owe them.
So can liens affect credit scores and borrowing options?
Well, they can most certainly, although since I believe 2018, they're not supposed to be reported on your credit reports. But somehow those people can get a hold of that information anyway. Um, but the other problem is that sometimes companies do not want to deal with people, your suppliers or whoever, if you have a federal tax lien or if you've ever been levied. Because what happens
Mm.
is they'll go after those people that owe you money and try to intercept those monies as part of a levy. And they don't want to go through all that hassle and all that paperwork. So it can affect an ongoing business in terms of its customers who owe them money. It can be a bad thing for the business.
What triggers the IRS to file a lien, and is there any warnings that people should look out for?
No, I mean, here's the deal. There's no timing aspect except this. If no lien has been filed before you get an agreement with the IRS, or if you get into currently non-collectible status, if you owe under 50, sometimes you can negotiate with the IRS not to file the lien, but that's at their discretion. They have the ability to file a lien if your liability is more than $10,000. So a lot of the times it depends on who you negotiate with over the phone at the IRS as to whether that lien would be filed under 50. If it's over 50,000, they're going to file the lien. If you're placed into currently non-collectible status, they're going to file the lien. But if you don't have a lien on your property at the time that you get an agreement, most of the time a lien's going to be filed once you have that agreement in place.
So how can a lien be removed or withdrawn, and what's the time or the process, or the wait for that?
Well, it's very difficult to get a lien withdrawn because you owe them the money and they don't want to take second place. Now, if you're going to get a loan to pay off the debt, they'll be happy to subordinate there. They'll do a conditional lien release, and it's all has to be done within 30 days from the date that they give you the conditional lien release. But other than that, you're probably going to have to deal with the filing of the lien, particularly if you owe more than $50,000 to the IRS, because they want to protect their interest in case your lien is your property is sold. Now, the lien, when it's filed, not only attaches to the home, in theory, it attaches to all personal property that you have at the time the lien is filed and any after acquired property that you have. But as a practical matter, they're not going to come after anything that you own personally. They're not going to go after a motor vehicle. They don't have the resources. They don't want to be involved in all of that and all that which that entails. I have seen the state authorities go after a client of mine for unpaid sales tax, and they got his car, but the bad news for the state was he owed so much in the car, they didn't get anything out of it by the time they resold it. But the guy owed like $1 million. They just wanted to scare him and let him know, even if we're not going to get anything out of you, we want you to know we're still around and we're going to give you problems from time to time.
So what about expirations? Do liens expire on their own? Do they require an active resolution?
Well, as I discussed earlier, they're supposed to be self-releasing. In fact,
Okay.
on the lien itself, it says the last date to refile. And normally the IRS will not refile a lien unless you owe over six figures. Then they can do it, but they have to file it before that last day expires. If they do it after, and we've had cases like this, they'll try to file a new lien, and then we go through a process. We're saying, nope, you can't file the lien. You were too late, and then the lien has to be removed. Those liens are supposed to be self-releasing. In the old days, the IRS would send you a formal release of lien on its own, file it with the recorder of deeds. But now the IRS is so screwed up, they're no longer doing that. They're so far behind, they don't have enough personnel that people now have to hire me to go through the formal written process to get the lien released.
So what about advice to some people that you can give, that are trying to sell their home with that lien that's already in place, Lance?
Well, that's difficult. The first thing that I would do is find out if they can stay in their house. If there's only, say, 2 or 3 more years before
Right.
the lien's going to go away because the collection statute's going to expire, then I would tell them wait it out. You can save 50, 60, $70,000 by doing that. And for most people, they would prefer to do that. But there's other people that don't want to wait. They want to get out. They want to get it sold. And the main reason is, well, they can no longer afford the mortgage. So, under those circumstances where they're having financial distress, it's difficult to convince them to wait it out because they're already under duress because of the fact that they don't have enough money to pay the bills sometimes.
I'd like to ask you about, misconceptions typically when we do these episodes and or things that people don't know that they should know that might get by them that you can kind of inform them on. Anything about liens or that people should know that maybe people don't essentially know as far as like, general information.
Yeah, and I think we touched on a lot of this already is that, people are under the misperception that a lien is an actual seizure, like a levy is. They confuse a lien and a levy all the time. The other misconception is that the lien's going to be there forever
Mm.
or until the debt is paid off in full, which is not true because under federal law, the IRS only has 10 years from the date the tax is assessed to collect the debt. Now, there's so many things procedurally that can stop the running of the statute on collections that for each tax liability period, we have to calculate what the last date is for when the statute on collections expires. And again, as I said earlier, they used to be self releasing. The IRS would do all this without you having to do further work, but that's no longer true. They're no longer going to send a formal release most of the time to the recorder of deeds. So then they're going to have to hire my firm or somebody else to go through that formal process to get the lien release. So those are the things that you have to look out for. As I've said before, the new reality is the IRS is so screwed up that
Yeah.
taxpayers are having to do more work to do the same result that they had historically done years ago, but it's just not happening now because they don't have the personnel. They're so far behind because of the pandemic. So, it's just more work for the clients and it's more work for us, but that's just how it is.
Lance Drury, thank you so much for taking the time, telling all these lovely people at home your thoughts and giving them your knowledge. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well, Evan. Take care. Have a great weekend.
You too. You too. Enjoy yourself. If you can catch the game, if you're not sleep too early, try to watch a game or two. You know what I mean?
I'll try. I'll try.
And thank you all for watching at home. Tax liens don't go away on their own. Visit lancedrurylaw.com to start protecting your property rights today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.